Hello, my name is Aaron. Not only am I a voice actor, I am also a sound designer. I have been doing sound effect design for several animations over the past 5 years. This includes Gregzilla's Reb series, Shippage's Starter Squad, as well as Chronoxia and the Eight Seals. But I don't just do animation, I've also done sound effect design for student films and also various other forms of media like video games and whatnot. And this is going to be a video on me watching anime and kind of giving my judgment as well as some of my pet peeves on where the sound effect design was. Now, do keep in mind some of these anime are also relatively old, so there are things that I'm going to excuse. There are just also things that I might give you guys an idea or perhaps a bit more comprehension on what sound is. So our first clip will be from Dragon Ball, which is the clip in which Goku meets Bulma for the first time. Oh, that dragging sound. Yeah, the sound effect design, especially from back then, there was a lot done with analog. Oh my god. I could definitely tell that the vocal recording was done much later because it sounds digital compared to the analog from back then.
Oh wow.
Stop it! What are you doing?
So, before anything else, I want to note, if your car is creaking, your car might be really messed up. Car is a very sturdy piece of machinery that is held by a very specific piece, kind of holding everything all together. So if it sounds like it's creaking, it's not made of it's not going to be good for your car.
This is for hitting me!
That is definitely old, like 80s, 90s animation sound effect design, because literally all they did was just take a whole bunch of stuff and metal and they just threw it. Once again, this is in a sense that there is analog before there was digital, and having to do the sound effect design for this animation is very, very telling. So I gotta give a huge congratulations to the people back then and give a huge amount of respect for the people that were doing the sound effect design for early animation. So this next clip that we're going to be watching is from episode 3 of Another. It is a pretty well-known clip. I haven't watched Another, and I'm not a huge fan of gory anime and stuff like that. It was suggested to me by a friend to give this a watch, as I do some gory sound effects in my design. Okay, so the footsteps need to have a bit more reverberation because the halls are relatively empty. But, oh, there it is. Never mind. No, it sounds pretty good. Okay, so, yep. Something I want to note here, before anything, the physics does not apply to this anime at all. First of all, if your foot falls forward and you're going downstairs, you're going to land on your behind rather than falling forward and rolling into what I am going to assume is the umbrella. And also, they do not sell umbrellas with a point like that. Okay, so you hear the end sound there. It sounds like somebody fell down some stairs. That's what it sounds like. That's what it would have sounded like first. Also, something to note with the gore sound effect, it sounds like blood is spurting. That's not how blood works, and that's explicitly not how sound works when it comes to, something squishy. For a lot of sound design, when it comes to gore, the biggest aspect is to make it sound as bloody and as messy as possible. But you have to think about the physics of blood and where and how it reacts. So if it sounds like something is going through human flesh, it would have sounded like the flesh is being torn. Also, it's going through bone and what I'm assuming the spine as well here. From what I can tell, since it's going through the spine, I would have preferred a bit more the breaking of bone, probably some very visceral scraping as well. But blood does not make a splurt sound, especially the way that it works. This is more like a slow leak, and if it spurts out, it doesn't make a high-pitched sound. You'll hear the sound of blood hitting concrete. You'll hear the sound of blood like water droplets hitting concrete or fabric, or what I can tell that's happening here, but it does not spurt the way one would think it would. Blood is relatively silent when it's coming out of the human body. People would think I'm insane, but no. This is done very, very well, and it does accentuate the gore aspect from the animation. Next up, we're going to be watching a clip from Trigun, episode 5, which is another early anime from the 90s. I would say this is probably one of my favorite series, and as far as my childish mind reminds me of, that it's going to be good sound design, I hope. But yeah, let's go ahead and give it a watch. Oh, the foot sound effects are just fantastic. Textures, beautiful. The moving of the glasses. Oh, that dramatic sound.
Ready to fight, are you? Oh, so you want to draw? It's pointless no matter what caliber pistol you use, like trying to stop a car from ramming at 120 miles an hour. You felt it twice already. Even your puny brain can realize my son's fist is a force to be reckoned with, or do you really believe you'll survive another one? This is your last chance to run. Although no matter how fast you are...
I do love the ambience. It does sound like the outside of a desert.
Now pay attention, because as a courtesy, I'm going to lecture you on just what a stupid fool you really are. Using this technique.
I also love the vocal effect. Ooh.
My human
no.
Go ahead, quick.
Okay, so the first problem as soon as the fist started spinning was that is not how I would have done the sound effect design. So hearing the fist spinning around the way it did, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's too high pitched, and also on top of that, the size of the doctor's son is just too big for the design that it came from. It just sounds like a lower pitched drill instead of what could have been. I would say if I were to do the design, I would have done something like a big propeller or something that would have accentuated the size and the gravitas of the size of his fist.
He did it.
It changed course.
I only have one small problem with the sound design about that, was the ricochets of the bullets going into the fist. Obviously, I'm assuming, the guy is mostly made of metal and his arm is attached by metal, so I'm assuming there'd be metally bits inside of his hand. However, I am not very approving of the fact that the bullets did go in, and that it sounds like they were still being ricocheted off of metal or off of rock, instead of, allowing there to be some fleshy bit that goes along with it. But once again, this is, late 90s, mid to late 90s, and the sound effect design for it was much different. So, I hard pass. But the propeller sound, the sound of the fist could have been replaced by the gravitas of a propeller, the way that it displaces air, and also the ricochets of the bullets. I'd say it could have probably been done a little bit more different if it was done today. Now we're gonna get to one of my favorite animes of all time, which is Fate Zero, Saber versus Lancer. This is the first time that they meet, and we're gonna be looking at how armor and other various weapons that are used in this combat, and the sound effect design that went behind it, which I think was done very, very well.
I see.
I remember that they were nearby an ocean, so the ocean in the background that you can hear near the warehouses, the ambience is very, very nice.
How unfortunate for you.
I'm afraid you'll never know the true name
The
of
way
my
that the
blade.
air seems to be displaced or moving
I'll finish
around,
this before you ever
the
get
closer
the chance.
Arturia is.
We shall see about that. I will discover whatever it is.
Footsteps
you're
are really
hiding,
good.
Saber.
Oh, wow. All right, so first and foremost, the way that the visuals and the sound effect design was done right there, with the wind being completely and utterly displaced with the clashing of two pieces of metal. Also, the movement of Saber's armor, that does not sound like plate mail. Plate mail is very platey by design, and so it doesn't have this higher ring to it. It does sound like scale mail, and it's much like ring mail, but ring mail conforms to the body a lot easier, and even if you move around, it won't make as much sound. But scale mail will always make a sound when you're moving. Scale mail was probably what they used, or chains and scale mail would have been what they used for the sound effect design for her armor.
You've exposed your sword to me.
The invisible air is coming apart.
The displacement of the air with the staff is perfect. The movement of the clothing, very, very well done. I would say right at the end there, there's something I probably would have added: sparks between the two weapons, because obviously there's a lot of sparking in between the two, and I would have liked to heard a little bit of that. But the displacement of the air, the force, the magic, the power that goes behind each strike is just beautifully done. And last but not least, we're going to be looking at Danmachi, which is the fight between Belle and the giant silverback gorilla. And I remember doing the sound effect design for this for How to Be an Adventurer. There are just certain aspects that I am still not a fan of when it comes to the original. That one rock sound that does not make sense. That explosion sound, not all that great. I know I don't want to be negative here, but that rock sound effect sounds like it's from a specific studio that does the sound effect design and is outreached by the animation studio. That rock sound effect is almost in every single anime that I watch, and it is uniformly just always there. And the moment that he moves is almost as if he's kicking up a rock and it's being rolled around, and that's not what's happening. I wouldn't have done that. I would have done something that would have displaced the air, or make it sound like he was moving, or the sound that he is running, give it some dramatization, but I would not have made it sound as if like he's kicking up rocks. He's obviously on cobblestone. That rock sound is there again, time and time again during this fight, and it seems like because they couldn't find another way to accentuate his movements, the way he's landing, the way he's moving around, they constantly fell back on that one sound effect, and which is something that happens for a lot of sound effect designers, because when we find something that we like, we tend to stick with it, and also we try to have a universal or a uniform sound for whenever something happens. The same thing could be said about guns. You know, when you fire a gun, it doesn't make a different sound every single time you fire it. It makes one uniform sound. But it seems like something that they're leaning on instead of trying to find a way to make him sound interesting. This bothers me. No, this bothers me greatly. The action in which, when the silverback is moving the giant chains around, there is never a chain sound effect that goes along with it, and he's using it right now, and it happens after the action happens. That bothers me. And what else bothers me is the sound of the chain in and of itself. The sound of the chain sounds very high. It sounds as if rustling a chain link fence or moving around some very high-pitched chains, instead of pitching them down and letting them kind of form out and giving it some oomph and design. It was not done very, very well. I would say even when I did it, this was about 3-4 years ago. Like, I regret not doing that, but this still bothers me to this very day, is how high pitched and how slow the design was when it came to doing the chains for this fight. That's a good design. I'll give it that. The pulling of like rope and the displacement of the air from when it snaps back. Okay, so the metal falling is obviously, a thin piece of metal being moved around instead of something chunky and big. They're using more higher pitched sounds instead of, allowing themselves to pitch things down or to kind of give it a certain design aspect that would have made it feel like it drops, like a piece of a 2-inch thick steel dropping on the ground. It sounds like he broke some ribs and you could hear some cracking. And obviously, if you're embedding, 4 inches, 5 inches of steel into, the size and body of this giant silverback, it's going to have some ramifications with the amount of force that he put behind it. So I'm hearing the cracking of bones, and obviously there's probably some ruptured organs in there because of it, but yeah, that's really well done. So yeah, that was me watching a bunch of anime clips and judging its sound effect design. I really enjoyed doing this and giving you guys some of my thoughts on the way animation was done back in, the 80s and 90s, all the way up to, where anime is now in its sound effect design. So yeah, that is all the clips that I have today, and I'm glad that I was able to kind of pass some judgment. If you guys are very interested in me doing this again, please let me know. In fact, give me some suggestions for some anime that you would like me to kind of give my opinions on the sound effect design for that anime. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you all in the next video. Laters.